hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, welcome on in, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hans and Scotty, let's kick off your week. It is Conference Championship week. We got tournaments, Big 12, Mountain West. I almost said Pac-12 just because out of
maybe that's probably happening out there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
But, yeah, let's get it, man. We're excited.
It's going to be a great week, and, these conference tournament championship things are a lot of fun, and this time of year is a lot of fun for college basketball fans.
Yes.
A lot of fun for college basketball fans. But I'm pretty settled in on this Utah Hockey Club team, seeing if they can make this push. I want to see if they can make the push.
Yeah.
I want to see if they can get in. So I actually got a couple tickets for me and Amanda tonight.
Nice.
Yeah. I got to go.
Got to see it.
Yeah, you got to be close to the ice, and you got to be able to see it and experience it. And, we can go with our media passes.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, but getting a couple seats and going out and just experiencing it is a whole other thing. So I like to do that just so that I can create or paint a picture for the listeners as well.
Yeah. Because you're a man of the people, too.
I try to be. I try to get out there a little bit.
I mean, the people that go to the Toyota Club, but still a man of the people.
No, this is not that. This is not that. I'm gonna have bloody nose. I'm sure the whole time.
Good for you.
But excited for that. Excited to get out at Utah Hockey Club, and then I got out to the fights this weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Union Event Center.
Was that the bare knuckle thing?
No, this was Mitchell.
Oh,
my nephew.
How is he?
Well, he just took his second belt. So now he owns Utah's amateur middleweight and light heavyweight. He owns both those belts.
Look at him go.
But it's time for him to jump into the pro ranks, It's time to go make some money. He had the guy ground and pounded in the second round. Came out. I've never seen him leg kick, and he leg kicked this dude, and you thought the guy's leg flew off. He kicked him so hard, the guy went down, and Mitchell just got on top of him, beat the crap out of him. It was awesome.
They called it.
But that fighting event and venue, it's just right over here. Have you ever been to the Union Event?
I have not.
It's a fun little venue, and it's just kind of tucked right behind, what is it, Grand Union Station? What is the building here behind the Delta Center? Am I even pointing in the right direction?
No, I don't know. If I get lost in here. Lloyd makes fun of me all the time because I always think things are in a different direction they are. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the train station.
Yeah, the train station.
Yeah.
It's just right behind it.
Okay.
And it was a night of fights, man. Like the old fights, Lloyd, Scotty. I don't think you used to go to the old fights, like the old showdowns. And
no.
Lloyd, it was the first time it felt like the old fights days.
Oh, and I missed those days.
Yeah,
Those were good.
Then those old fight days, Scotty. That's when the fights break out in the crowd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, things were getting intense in the crowd.
If there's not enough action on the mat, it's there's something's gonna pop up somewhere.
Yeah, or if what's happening on the mat is not favored by the crowd,
Okay.
because there's always
They get a little grumpy.
Yeah. Oh, geez. There's always two sides of everybody in there that's ready to fight each other because you're cheering for your fighter, and then group of other guys cheering for their fighter, and then you're like, yeah, well, our fighter's better. Well, our group's better. And then, then you fight.
And then all hell breaks loose.
But I had Rock with me, so nobody fought.
Yeah, that's...
He just walked around like a big tree trunk.
I remember in Vegas when we had Christian down there with us, and I'm walking, and I got you on one side and Christian on the other. I'm like, I think I'm pretty good.
I think I could talk some trash.
I think I can run my mouth here a little bit.
Man, that was back when I was big and Christian was in great shape.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the same now.
Now Christian's just a male model.
Yeah, now Christian's just extremely handsome.
He's like anything but the hair, guys.
He'd shock him with good looks.
Yeah. Just turn his head and the wave of hair.
And then we can maybe overtake him. I'm not afraid to tell this story because Christian did not abide. He did not set in, but every time we would do shows together, girls would stop by and throw their number.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah. No,
every time.
I saw it up close and in person. And it was in Vegas, too. It was that trip.
Yeah. They just stop by and put their number on the table and look at him like, call that number.
And he laughs and he takes a look at it and just tosses it.
Yeah, wads it, throws it away.
That's just like, what world is this man living in? Like, I don't know that this world existed. But apparently it does for the super good looking.
For the super good looking, it does. But speaking of Vegas, when are you headed out?
It'll either be tomorrow after the show or Wednesday after.
Because it's a late tip, isn't it?
It's a very late tip. And if they win, it'll be an even later tip on Friday night. But there's some stuff that.
Why?
It's just TV.
That'd be semi?
The semis. Yeah, if they play, and this is the thing that really.
They got to win 3 games to win it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so everybody goes into the quarters. The top 5 seeds have that first round bye. But this is the messed up thing about the Mountain West Conference. And again, you kind of have to look, as long as you're cashing the checks, you do what the TV tells you to do. But they are going to be on, if they win on Thursday, that game will be, the Thursday game, I believe, will start at 9:30 Mountain Time. If they win, their next game will be at 10 o'clock Mountain Time, 9 o'clock Vegas. And if they win that, they play in the championship game. They'll go from playing at 10 p.m. Mountain Time to 2 o'clock the next day, the next afternoon.
That's ridiculous.
And it's always been that way as long as I've been in the conference tournament, and it really affects teams' abilities because not only are you playing 3 games in 3 days, but that third game is you have zero rest. Zero rest. I mean, Sam Merrill talked about how the fact he didn't even go to sleep the night before the game where he hit the big shot, which, by the way, was 5 years ago. You believe that?
No, I can't. 5 years ago.
5-year anniversary of that, yeah.
No, time goes, flies by.
And then all hell broke loose with COVID. So we're 5 years removed from that nightmare of a year.
Because it was that close to being canceled.
Yeah.
That tournament.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They got super lucky because there was some agricultural convention or some farm equipment convention that took up all of Vegas. And so they asked the Mountain West to move it up a week. And so they actually played their conference tournament a week early than everybody else, which ended up being a blessing in disguise because had that not happened, that tournament would have been canceled with everybody else's tournament. It had it been a week later, and we never would have had the heroics of one Sam Merrill.
Wow.
What the hell just happened?
I know, right?
Almost that moment.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's the day. Tomorrow is March 11th.
It's the Rudy Gobert Day.
It is the anniversary of the undoing of all sports and the beginning of about a 1.5 year push for you and I that was really crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
That was really crazy. I can't remember where you were contract-wise, but...
Oh, we were in the same place.
I was just negotiating.
Oh, actually, no. I was not. I was without a contract.
Which is even worse.
Yeah, completely without a contract.
Which was even worse. I was right in the middle of negotiating, and
you pretty much got it wrapped up too, didn't you? I mean,
they did. Yeah,
you were pretty much verbally done.
Yeah, they'd had it all wrapped up, and then they said, "We're gonna have to renegotiate," and I was like, "Well,"
and not in a good way.
That's how the cookie crumbles. But luckily, our show's always been solid.
Yeah,
and everybody's taken great care of our show. And so they were able to take care of it, and that was incredible. But that was a crazy time. March 11th. Does that not live in infamy? Does that not live in everybody's mind?
By the way, I'm just on the
day the Jazz called it quits.
I'm on my Dropbox page where I keep a lot of stuff. And there is, on March 12th, 2020, the podcast that we all had to record with all of us. Talking about the fact that we weren't on the air because they wouldn't let us in the building. And so from home, I had to tap into everybody, record a podcast, put it online and say, hey, sorry, we're not on the air. But Rudy touched every mic he could think of. And now they're doing a deep cleaning of the arena. and we're not allowed in our studios, so this is all you got right now.
That's so crazy.
And then a week later, we had an earthquake, and I had to do the same thing because the earthquake knocked us off the air.
That is so crazy. So my buddy was running, in charge of law enforcement in Washington County up in Idaho.
Yeah.
And this popped up as a memory. He sent me this sheet, and it was in recognition of the first COVID case in Washington County. And the way it reads, it says, Southwest District Health has confirmed the first COVID-19 case in Washington County in a female that's age 70. The individual is recovering at home. Source of transmission is under investigation. Additional case-specific information about the individual is confidential, will not be released. He said this is the private release that they sent throughout Washington County. And he sent it to me. He was like, we got trouble up here. And I was like, dude, we got trouble everywhere, man.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't know if you know this, but I'm doing a 4-hour sports show, and we don't have any sports.
Yeah.
That's trouble. It was a crazy freaking time. And then it goes through, it's got 6 bullet points, the directions for the stay-at-home order. So Washington County got put on a stay-at-home order, and that's when everything started to unwind.
Yeah.
But, all based off that March 11th mark.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I mean, when it all came crashing down, I remember talking to one of my really good friends who helps run the Big Sky Conference, and he's in the middle of their tournament. And I'm texting him, I'm like, are you shutting it down? I'm like, no, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. And then at the end, he's like, yeah, nobody's letting us do this.
We need to have journal entry. I did not do a journal. I should have done a journal.
Yeah.
Because it was bizarre. And just you bringing up all those points of disappointment. It was just disappointment after disappointment. All the way down the line. Things falling apart.
Oh, I know.
And then, the worrying concern of people dying. And for those of you out there that think that COVID didn't kill people, you're out of your mind.
I mean, it killed 1 million people.
Because Scotty and I and Lloyd, we lost a very good friend.
Yeah.
Was younger than us.
Yeah.
And a father and a husband, and it was crazy.
The very first fatality in the state of Utah was in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
From COVID.
It's like right in your cul-de-sac. And then remember, Robert Garf followed.
Yes. He was like number 2 or number 3.
Really close after that.
That's right.
And I've known Robert since he started the Blaze back in 2005, I think it was.
Now, let's be honest. Could we go back and revisit things and do things a little differently?
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Oh, man.
Absolutely, yes. But I think, as much as we like to bang on elected officials, given the fact that hindsight's not 20/20 at that time, and you're just going through it at the time, I think people did the best they possibly could.
They did. People were trying to save lives.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Oh, yeah.
And, I know you've got doctor friends. I've got multiple doctor friends. And I was on the phone with them every day. And I'm like, what are we doing? How are we doing? What are we doing? And they're like, every person that decides to stay home is one bit less risk of getting it and transmitting it, because at that point they didn't know what the accelerator rate was, how quick this thing would transfer. And it was just one wild thing after the other.
Boy, I do not want to go back to that.
Well, I remember Scotty on air, I think it was the next week. So everything hit March 11th when the Utah Jazz shut it down against Oklahoma City.
Yep.
And all of our buddies were in holding. Bowler and Locke and all those guys were in holding.
They stuck him in a room in that arena in Oklahoma City and said, just wait here. And they waited for hours and hours.
And I can remember texting a couple of those guys like, what's going on over there? How bad is this? And then remember, we got the transmission from Donovan, who was like in a basement in holding. You remember he released the video?
Yep.
And we're all sitting there like, was he going to die? Like,
we didn't know.
We didn't know. It was Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And I remember it was like a week, maybe 2, and we were on air. Maybe one of the first really on-air opportunities we got just before the earthquake. And you were like, if I had that click button, I'd fast forward us 2 years right now.
Yeah.
And it was almost 2 years
until it got back to normal.
Before things kind of shook out. Because I remember, Scotty, and Lloyd, you probably remember this too. I remember watching sporting events with nobody in the stands, like months later, and then wondering, are we ever going to have people in the stands ever again? Like, is this going to become
the future?
The future. Yeah.
Is this the future of our world?
Yes. I was thinking that I literally had that thought, and it was such an eerie feeling. And we were so hard up to get out of the house with all our kids. One of the first events they had was a monster truck rally at Delta Center, and they only allowed a certain amount of people. You had to have 3 rows and 3 seats between your family.
And I took Xavier to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I took Rock. And it was so weird. It was so weird. Yeah, that's all 1 year ago tomorrow.
1 year ago.
That it all started
Or 5 years ago tomorrow.
Or 5 years ago tomorrow.
Yeah.
That it all started to go crazy on. But was there a time where you thought, are we even going to have sporting events?
So our studios at the time were up in the arena in the Delta Center, and we were on that 5th floor. And so you could walk across the concourse from our studio into the upper bowl of the arena. And because so many people were doing shows from home or meetings from home, everything was on Zoom.
There was nobody in the arena.
And so the arena was just empty. Mm-hmm. But I would go into that arena and sit down in one of the arena chairs, and I'd do a lot of my Zoom calls from in there and just to feel what it was like. And I remember just looking around the arena thinking, is this place ever going to be full again? Like, is this like an old building that's now going to be deserted because nobody can come together and watch a basketball game live with, 17, 18,000 people?
Yeah.
And it was, I would get emotional because I'm thinking, what are we doing? And then I'd have, bosses like, hey, we might have layoffs. Be ready. And it's like,
oh man,
it's the worst.
And we did.
We did.
Yeah, it was multiple.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody that's listening can remember. It was multiple. I did always feel a deep sickness for how Rudy Gobert was treated over that whole thing.
And still is, honestly.
Yeah, because I actually don't believe the whole story has been told deep enough or as much in detail as it needed to be with the whole falling out between Donovan and Rudy. And the rumors were definitely exaggerated that it couldn't be fixed because they did play together for a couple years after that.
Yeah, earned a 1 seed together.
So it wasn't completely in disrepair. But I do know that there was some anger. There was some real anger and disappointment about maturity levels and handling things a certain way, and that was a bad deal.
Yeah.
What a crazy time, Scotty.
Hey, I was going to talk to Lloyd real quick. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's like, hey, Lloyd, and then he rips the headset off and runs away. Are we okay to promote the website? Or are we still waiting on that? Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right, never mind. We can't promote it.
But we do have something
big's coming down the pipeline.
Let's promote the promotion.
Yes.
That it's coming.
That something really cool is coming. Well, maybe cool for you guys. Hans and I, not so much. But we're doing what we can to stay up for the times.
How crazy is this, the way this finished out this weekend? Utah and BYU.
Oh, I know.
BYU on an 8-game win streak. What in the world happened? And can they keep that heat? I think they can.
They've got all the tools to do it. They really do. They've got all the pieces in place. And so.
Yeah, because everything that came together, their shooting percentage, their 2-point percentage, their 3-point percentage.
Where they're at defensively, they're rebounding.
When they needed it, their free throw shots. Yeah. I know that we did go through a flux of free throws that it was like, so what's happening? Or at any point, are you guys going to start hitting those free throws? Or BYU went through all of these twists and turns, and then they just squared this thing off. West Virginia, going back 8 games ago, which takes you all the way back to February 11th.
Is our boy Leonardo? Does he have him as a 5 seed now?
Leonardo? I don't know where he's.
Can you stop calling him Leonardo?
I don't.
By the way, Jerry Palm going to join the show today.
Oh,
at 105.
Jerry's one of the best.
Yeah, Jerry's great.
I like
He's
Jerry.
Today at 105.
You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
That's right. Yeah!
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard. Happy Monday, everybody. Conference tournament week. Be down in Vegas coming up here in the next couple days. Got Utah State up against the winner of the Air Force UNLV game on Thursday night, late Thursday night. BYU will kick off their conference tournament coming up a little bit later on in the week as well. Utah does not have a bye. They'll be in action early, and we'll have all the coverage for you, whether it's in Kansas City or Las Vegas. Nobody has you better covered than the Zone.
It's hard to believe BYU's been able to put this together, but it's hard to believe, but it's not unimaginable. Right? It's hard to believe, but not unimaginable.
No, not
because we knew Yeager was going to be amazing.
Yeah,
we had an idea that Kevin Young would be fantastic. We know that they put money into this roster with guys like Keba Keita and others to bring them in and to fortify. What we didn't know is that you'd have Richie Saunders.
That's been the wild card in all of this. And I mean, look, let's go back to the first couple weeks of Big 12 play. They started at 1-3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, slow start.
And so at any point during that stretch, did anybody think that they would even be in the conversation for an NCAA tournament, let alone a potential 5 seed in the conference tournament and wearing home uniforms to kick off the conference tournament? Nobody thought that.
Yeah. I did go look that up, and Leonardi does have them as a 5 seed.
Yeah.
In the East bracket, going up against UC San Diego.
Ooh, that could be a tough matchup.
Really?
Yeah, UC San Diego beat Utah State this year.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
In Logan.
Like week 2.
They're a really good team.
Yeah. They've got them as a 5-12 BYU UC San Diego.
Now, BYU should win and win fairly easily, but that's not an easy matchup there.
What are they good at? Just shooting? Or?
Yeah, really good shooter. They've got one player, and I forget his name. It's been forever, but they've got one player who, if he does come back for another year of college basketball, he'll be playing somewhere else.
Oh, really?
And making a lot of money.
Making a ton of money.
Yeah.
One thing I look at BYU, I think BYU could get in a shooting match with a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Like if you want to just run and gun and you want to fire this thing off and hit some perimeter threes and you want to make this about the extra pass, finding the open shot, knocking it down, keeping your percentages high, BYU's probably going to outshoot a lot of people. They've been really good at that. And it's just funny. I mean, their rankings pretty much across the board offensively are either number 1 or number 2 in the Big 12.
Yes.
They just offensively have been so good. And they did get the win over the weekend, 85-74. They avenged that Utah loss that they had a little bit earlier in the year. And, that if it just feels like the rivalry is just continuing to grow.
Yeah, because, I mean.
You feel that way?
For how long? I mean, and it's just really fun to watch. Being in this market for almost 2 decades now and covering these two teams, I can say that the waves of momentum are really crazy to watch. Now, for football, it was all Utah for over a decade. I mean, it was just dominated Utah. But now they're a little bit more an equal playing field, and now BYU's like, okay, we're every bit as good, and now have reeled off, 2 in a row?
Yeah.
And
in football?
Yeah. And then in basketball, I know Utah got the win earlier this year, but then BYU answered back and really complete control of that game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
By the way, you saw what the spread was?
Yeah. Was it? It was 11.5.
11.5. And Kevin Graham's over there on Twitter
he
being
took
like,
the over.
Saying like, oh, come on, BYU. And for so long, it looked like BYU was going to win that game by like 16, 17 points. And then a little bit of a late surge in that late free throw. And then all of a sudden, it's an 11-point game.
For those of you that remember the little storm cloud, Kevin Graham, he took BYU in the 11.5, which means he put money on BYU to cover.
Yep.
And
they did not.
They didn't cover by, a half point?
A half point.
No, that's about as cagey as you
Oh,
get.
I know. It's like it's the most. Look, I know that he's dialed in on the morning show and he comes on their show, but I would love to just have a quick drop in and be like, "Hey, KG, how's the old bank account looking this morning?"
Yeah, how's the bank account looking? What negative is happening to you today?
Yes.
Because even when he moved out here to Utah, he had put his house on the market in Detroit, I think it was.
Oh, yeah, that thing sat on the market forever.
Put his house on the market in Detroit, moves out to Utah, 2008 hits. Nothing sells for 5 years. And then he had bought his house here at Daybreak.
Daybreak, yeah.
At the very peak of the market. And then he goes down in his basement and he finds an aquifer that was basically right under his foundation.
Oh, I hadn't heard this part.
Yeah, and water was pouring up through a crack in his basement. Do you remember that, Lloyd?
I do remember that.
He couldn't get the water to stop coming through the house. So then he's like, well, I got to sell this house. So I think at one point he had his 2 houses on the market in 2008.
Oh. The worst time on the planet to try to sell a house, too.
And then Kevin goes in, takes the 11.5 points with BYU in Utah.
Oh, man.
BYU beats him by 11. Oh, there's just something funny about it. I know it's bad fortune for him.
But you know,
funny.
Fortunately, professionally, the guy just falls uphill.
And if I was a betting man, that's a good bet.
Oh,
that's a great bet.
You know,
it's a good bet.
Spencer Nelson and I, because the Utah State game was at 2:00, we were talking about it, and he goes, "What's the spread?" I'm like, I didn't know what it was. I go, "I bet it's 16, 17." He pulls it up and goes, "It's 11.5." I'm like,
oh,
like immediately that gets your attention. You're thinking, I think BYU at home with all that momentum and Utah with the coaching change. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to go BYU minus the 11.5.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of witches.
Tell you what, man,
there.
Vegas knows.
which was right until, what, about a minute left? 30
Yep.
minute left? I can't remember what it was, kind of finishing out in the stretch.
The old backdoor cover.
But this team, what's interesting about this BYU basketball team, they can beat you in so many different ways.
Yep.
They can't, if you want to get physical and you want to get pushy, they'll get physical and pushy with you. And, you know, there's a couple guys, like I think Dallin Hall loves physicality. I think Mott Mag loves physicality. I know that Foose loves physicality.
Yep.
And I know that Richie Saunders doesn't shy away from it. In fact, he makes people pay for it. If you want to get physical, he's going to get himself to the line. He's going to push the tempo, try to get himself to the rim, which will put him at the line. So they've got a great game plan. And then, you know, the other thing, I think, you know, you were talking about BYU's start to the season, and it was a really tough start. Lost to Houston, lost to Texas Tech, lost to TCU. 3 losses in a row. Beat Oklahoma State, and then lost to Utah. That was the low point of the season for them.
Yeah.
In a 5-game stretch, they lost 4 conference games, only beating Oklahoma State. That was the low point for them. At that point, I feel like Kevin Young kind of figured out, learned about his team, thought, okay, I can do this. I can rotate here. If we want to push it down low, we can push down low with Foose. If we want to run a lot of pick and roll, we can do that with Yegor. If we want to get really physical and aggressive in transition, we could do that with Dallin. If we want to, whatever we want to do, we'll make sure that Richie Saunders is doing it because he's now owning the league. And you just saw this beautiful game plan come together for this team, and watching him use that talent has been really dang incredible.
Really impressive. And you go back to Richie Saunders, you've got the number 1 3-point shooter in the Big 12. If you just take Big 12 games and pull out that 3-point shooting, he's shooting nearly 46% from 3. But yet he's also in the top 20 in the league in fouls drawn per 40 minutes, which means that you're going to have to chase him off that line because he's such a good 3-point shooter.
He'll put you at the line.
So then he'll drive, and you're going to be out of position because you had one of your guards try to chase him off the line. He drives around him, gets into lane, draws the foul, goes to the free throw line where, oh, by the way, he's the 14th best shooter in the Big 12 from the free throw line at 83%.
Oh, he's high.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I found with, and it's not just Richie, but it's everybody on this team, is they will get teams in bad foul position pretty quick in the game.
Yep.
And you'll pull guys off the court because you don't know what else to do. You're afraid of them fouling out pretty quickly. And I would say in tournament play, let that be your action. Force those guards. If you got a guard that's on the court that's a fantastic offensive piece for the opponent, force them. Try to force their hand on you. See if you can get yourself to the line and see if you can get them in foul trouble. Because nobody's been able to really stop it or break it. And then Yegor is just so good in passing. He's just so good. So this makes it a very dangerous tournament team.
Yeah. Because as you mentioned, when there are teams that just shoot the three ball very well, I don't like taking them. When I fill out my bracket, I'll get really close and I'll look at 3-point shooting, but not just 3-point shooting. How much of your offense? Ken Pomeroy does a great job of this, and we'll talk to him next week. And the stat I look at is 3-point attempt for field goal attempt. Okay, so how many of your shots are from beyond the 3-point line? And if it's a really high number, that makes me nervous because that means your offense is coming from three. And if you have a bad day, it only takes one bad day shooting for it to come crashing down.
Right.
Well, BYU is number one in the conference in 3-point attempts per field goal attempts. They take more threes than anybody else in the conference. But here's the kicker. They're also number one in the Big 12 in shooting for two. So
in percentage.
In 2-point percentage.
Yeah, and I think they're, what are they, 15th or 16th in 2-point attempts in the league, right?
So, exactly, because they're such a fast-paced team, they get off a bunch of shots. So, yes, they are attempting a lot of threes, but they can also get to the line and they can shoot it from two. And so that's what makes them – look, if I knew nothing about BYU, but I'm just looking at stats and I'm trying to pick a team in the NCAA tournament, I'm taking BYU to go pretty far because they have the combination of all the ingredients of a team that can go far in the NCAA tournament.
Yes, they do. They've got all the numbers and percentages that make them a very interesting piece for the first time in a long time.
Yes.
Where you would feel confident taking them into the Sweet 16. Like, feel good about it instead of like, here goes our heart. We're letting the heart get away with it, not using our brain. Like, your brain will take them to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
I almost feel like anything less than a Sweet 16 is kind of like, dang, dude, that was 8. Look, I know people are going to listen to that and be like, what? Well, I think BYU's had one Sweet 16 appearance in how long? And have they had an Elite 8?
No, Jimmer couldn't make it past the Sweet 16.
I think it's a Sweet 16, and then
I think Danny Ainge was the last team that took somebody past the Sweet 16
that went to the Elite 8. It was something like that. It goes way back. But this is the thing: you beat number 23 Kansas 91-57. You went on a road trip to Arizona. You beat them in a heartbreaker. When you had to have a couple of free throws in order to win that game, you knocked down the free throws and you got the whole F the Mormons thing.
Yeah.
Then you follow that up by a nice, devastating beatdown of Arizona State on the road. Then you come home, you beat West Virginia soundly, and then you got the big Iowa State matchup. Number 10 team in the country, all the chips on the line, searching for the Conference 3 seed in tournament play. And you take them, you're up by 21 or 22 with 15 or 16 minutes left.
Yep. You blow it,
but everybody does in that arena. But you just blew it to the point of 2 overtimes, and then you played some clutch basketball, and you get the win there.
Would have been really easy to fold up in those overtimes and been like, oh, crap. They got us.
100%. And then you thump Utah. That's your 8-game stretch. That stretch tells me, is there anybody on a tournament roster right now that you wouldn't say, man, BYU's got a chance with them?
No.
I know Auburn is really good. And, I know Houston is really good. And I know that there's some really good teams. And Houston did completely embarrass BYU. I mean, that's the one game this year that it's like,
it was at Houston. It was in January, but it was 86-55.
What was the score?
86-55.
Yeah. Not good.
First Big 12 game of the year. Actually, no, I take that back. Arizona State was the first Big 12 game. But those teams are different now. Houston's still very good. BYU, They're in a much better place now because that was the first of a 3-game losing skid for BYU. And as you mentioned, 4 out of their first 5 they lost.
That was the toughest
That was the low point.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was the toughest point.
But here's the team right now. What do you feel is a harder team to play against right now? Houston in a neutral site game in an NCAA tournament or a Big 12 tournament, or Arizona in Tucson, or Iowa State in Ames?
I would say Iowa State in Ames, number 1. I'd say Arizona and Tucson, number 2. And then I'd say Houston in a neutral, number 3.
Yeah.
Is that way off?
Because when you hear neutral site, what does that mean? Lots of BYU fans.
Yeah.
BYU fans, whether it'll be the Big 12 tournament or whether it's in the NCAA tournament, are going to flock to those games.
Well, I hope that they drop BYU in the West, in the San Francisco bracket.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess quite a few BYU fans would travel out to Newark, but I don't know how many.
Who wants to go to Newark?
Nobody.
Like, you're not even like, you can't even say New York. It's Newark.
Newark.
It's like a poor man's New York.
But
I don't know, PK's listening. He gets all upset. He loves his jersey.
What jersey?
Oh, he just loves New Jersey.
Oh, I thought he said his jersey. He loves New Jersey. PK loves New Jersey.
Well, he's originally from New Jersey.
Like there's nobody more Jersey than PK.
Really?
Now he claims it. He moved out when he was like 15, 16, but his formative years were.
And let's be honest with you,
I have no idea.
He's been in Utah since he's like quite a while too.
Yeah, he's all Utah now.
He's all Utah.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't want to admit it.
Yeah.
He does still try to put the tough guy up every once in a while, though.
Yeah.
You're like, you're not tough. You're actually a big soft heart. Is what you are.
Well, you don't tell people that, but he is actually a very kind human being.
People don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't get it. And I could tell them 100 times, and they'd still be like, huh?
Huh?
Yeah.
You're like, if you really want to know who the jerk is on that show, it ain't PK. Wow. I'm joking. I'm joking, DJ. Love you.
If you want to know who the cutthroater is.
12:50, Hans and Scotty coming up next. What you may have missed right here on The Zone.
Looking for the latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah. We've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Happy Friday. Jerry Palm, one of the best bracketologists out there, will join us coming up in about 8 minutes from right now.
Good kid, Lloyd.
Yeah, I like Jerry.
Nice job, Lloyd.
Good dude.
Yeah, you deserve some credit on that one. Good job, bud.
Yeah.
Does this help?
Yeah.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate that.
Just
that means a lot to me.
Because every time we give you positive reinforcement, then you're like, you guys are just joking. You don't mean it.
I know, you always do that. You act like that. That's how you act.
Because I can't quite tell where you're coming from.
You don't take compliments well.
No.
Hey, but when you called him, did you say, hey, Jerry, Lloyd King Cole here. How did you introduce yourself?
Nope.
No?
I did not.
Lloyd King Cole here, Jerry.
Nope, I just said, Lloyd here with Hans and Scotty fame.
You're like, look.
And they're like, oh, I'd love to come on that show.
I know I'm calling
exactly
on behalf of Hans and Scott, but just know I'm the guy that really runs the show here.
And remember, call him Hans.
Yeah.
I do not do that, and you know
Yes,
I don't.
You do. If Jerry calls me Hans, I'm going to take away
I always emphasize Hans. It's Hans and Scotty. I always emphasize it.
Scotty, do you believe that?
I think he does.
No, I really do. I truly do. And when they say it, I'm like, dang it, come on.
That is always a rough moment when he's like, and somebody says Hans. I'm like, we all just cringe.
I know it happens a lot. That's why I think Lloyd's like, okay, you're going on with Hans and Scotty.
I back my guys like no other. I have your back. I would not do that to you.
You had me up until you back your guys.
I do back you guys.
No, I know you do. Jerry Palm joins us next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.